dumbest TikTok trends to ever fucking exist. The Benadryl challenge was a challenge where people would basically take a shit ton of Benadryl. Now, why were they doing this? Because apparently it would cause hallucinations. But you know what else taking a shit ton of Benadryl causes? Death. Fucking death, which is exactly what happened to a young girl who did this challenge. The Blackout Challenge, aka the Choke Game, was a challenge where people would basically make themselves stop breathing so that they would pass out unconscious. I'm not making this up, this was a real thing. It didn't directly start on TikTok, but this trend made it more popular on the app. And surprise, surprise, 7 kids died trying to do this challenge. The Cha-Cha Slide Challenge was a challenge where people would film themselves driving to the Cha-Cha Slide. Whenever the song went to the left or to the right, you would basically swerve your car in that direction. And hella people would just straight up swerve right in the middle of traffic. The amount of dumbasses that got into a car accident doing this challenge is insane. The Penny Challenge was a challenge where people would put a coin on the prongs of a phone charger as it was still plugged into an outlet. Now, the point of doing this was to try and get a little shock, but in case you didn't know, that causes the outlet to fucking explode and can set your goddamn house on fire. And some kids were dumb enough to do this in their school. In March 2020, people started the Coronavirus Challenge where they would try to get COVID by licking the most random shit. Doorknobs, handrails, toilet seats. Nothing was off limits for these fuckers. And yes, it worked. People got COVID from this. It also resulted in many people getting things much worse than COVID. Don't lick random shit, people. The Skull Breaker Challenge was a challenge where 3 people would jump up in the air at the same time, and they would kick the feet underneath of the person in the middle. The point of this was to send the person falling back and hit their head. Oh, and surprise, surprise, some fucking kids got a concussion from doing it. Who would have thought something called the Skull Breaker Challenge would go wrong? The NyQuil Chicken Challenge was a challenge where people would cook raw chicken in cough syrup. Not only is this straight up nasty as fuck, but it's also extremely dangerous. For one, you should not be ingesting that much cough syrup. You're not a SoundCloud rapper. And when you boil cough syrup, you release a lot of aerosol. And you know what happens when you inhale too much aerosol? You could fucking die! The Slap a Teacher Challenge is, well, pretty self-explanatory. Just casually assaulting teachers for shits and giggles. Now, TikTok tried to spread the narrative that this trend was a hoax at first, but that didn't stop a bunch of dumbasses from actually doing this. And surprise, surprise, it resulted in someone getting jail time. The DIY Fang Challenge was a challenge where people were making their own vampire fangs for Halloween. But rather than just putting them on their teeth like normal people, they were fucking super gluing them on! I'm not making this up. People were actually super gluing vampire fangs onto their teeth for a trend. The Throw It in the Air Challenge was a challenge where people would stand in a circle, stare at their phone, throw an object into the air, and then try not to flinch as it hit them. Now, you think that for this challenge, people would throw really light objects so that they don't get hurt, right? No, not at all. People were throwing fucking heavy-ass objects into the air. One group did this challenge with a fucking ladder, like... But you know, this challenge does seem really, really fun. If you want to get a fucking concussion,